You want to start us off though?
Welcome back to another episode.
Just kidding. Got it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of What's Dang.
Oh, now you forgot what we're even talking about.
Wow.
So backwards. You good.
Welcome back to another episode of Diving Deeps with the Levs here on What's the Biz 559. We are so thankful that you're here to join us today.
Yes.
We have some very, very special guests that are near and dear to our hearts. Our brother and sister, Blake and Mia Shawn.
Yes.
Welcome, guys. We are so excited to have you guys on here.
Thankful to be
Thanks for
here.
having us.
Yes, of course.
So I guess just before we get into the real stuff, how you guys doing?
Really good. I mean, there's been so much awakening in the past year that it's just being where we are right now is the biggest blessing I could ever ask for.
Amen.
Love that.
So thankful to be where we're at right
That's
now.
good.
Yeah,
That's
Blake,
good.
how you doing, brother?
Dude, life is a trip.
Yeah.
Like,
It be lifing.
It never stops lifing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think 2024, we've been calling it, or I shouldn't say I've been calling it the Redemption Tour.
Yes.
Ooh.
Everywhere we go, everywhere we visit, it's redemption season, baby.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
no
I like
matter
that.
no matter how we touched the soil previously, how we're touching it this year is different.
Yes.
Because the season's different.
Ooh,
You
that's
feel
good.
it, it's different.
Yeah.
And there's just an energy on God's people that it ain't fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But you being able to walk into that, embrace it, that's huge, and that speaks to where you are just mentally and as a man too. So,
Amen. Thank you, brother.
shouts out to
I've worked
that.
hard to try to be able to enjoy every bit
Yeah.
of what I finally feel like I should.
Yeah.
So
That's
Yeah.
good.
it's been a cool season.
That's good, man. So, first off, I just want to say thank you, because what we're going to talk about is not an easy topic. Not only given your experience and what you're going to talk about and share, but just for other couples, this is something that they don't talk about, which is something they deal with on their own individually, and they don't get the necessary help. And it is one of the reasons why a lot of marriages divorce.
Yep.
And so thank you for just your courage and boldness to come and just share and talk about something that we believe, and I know you believe, will impact couples and really help them in tough seasons in their life. So
Man, thank you, dude.
May was Mental Health Awareness Month.
It was also madness for us. So we're going to just, draw that over to June and keep it going in today's topic.
And so that's what we're going to talk about, mental health in marriage and just how that impacts your marriage. So I guess just with starting off, like, how long have you two been married?
We've been married for 6 years.
He was
6
like, let
years.
her answer.
In general, I'm just gonna let her, and then don't want to steal any thunder.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That's
sweet.
fine. Yeah.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
Oh, man. Do you want to tell it this time?
Sure.
All right. I always tell it. I'm on his side.
So yeah, we were talking before the show about that brown Malibu clunker that you were cruising around and taking pictures. But we met at Keller Williams. We were working on the Kevin Blaine team at the time. Lena was there.
Yeah.
What up, girl?
Yeah. From the
Jermaine was
beginning.
around.
He was around.
Jermaine was around too.
Yeah,
He
I
wasn't quite
listen,
in there, but he was
Listen,
around.
I was dropping off flowers to the Blaine house.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
literally.
he was there. He was in there.
You were getting vetted by Mr. Blaine himself.
Yeah.
I remember all of that, dude. It seems like
R.I.P.
it seems like yesterday and like 30 years, even more.
I know.
It's like
Yeah.
weird.
It's crazy, but
Like
it's true.
lifetimes have happened since
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I feel like. But we met there on the team. I was an agent, and she was the photographer, and she kept trying to take pictures of me, and I'm like, girl, we're trying to sell houses. We're trying to sell
Tell the
houses.
truth.
I'm gonna keep going off like this unless you want to say it your way. So.
All right. Well, anyway, the truth of the matter is that I was working for the team, and Blake was a pretty established agent doing his thing. And I had a boyfriend at the time, so I didn't want anything to do with Blake. Blake was doing his own thing, but he would pop into the office, and he would make little comments about how cute I was or whatever, and I would just roll my eyes because I had a boyfriend, And I got
Doesn't sound like
baptized.
something I would do.
And this was 2016, and I got baptized in 2016, and I started a relationship with God, and I was going to restoration, and And the relationship I was in, I kept asking him to go to church, and he was totally against it and didn't want to talk about God at all. And I was like, God's my life now. How do I just shut it off, you know? And then my parents were bringing Blake around to church, and he's just there worshiping, and my whole mindset changed about him because I wasn't interested in him at all before, you know?
What?
But when I saw him worship, and I had never cared for
I feel that, bro.
Yeah, you know about, like, you learn about equally yoked and things like that. Yes. And I didn't care about stuff like that because I didn't know. But until I saw somebody with a yoke, that was like, that's a beautiful one to have. And so I was taking pictures of houses. Blake kept showing up to them and saying he wanted to make sure I was safe. And there'd be like a 90-year-old man in his rocker or like these women selling their mom's home, like very nice. And I'm like, no, you don't need to be here. So one day I wrote him a really long email telling him to leave me alone. He needs to respect my relationship, needs to respect me. And
that's when I knew.
Yeah.
I had her.
Yeah.
She put forth so much energy on that email. I was like, signed, sealed, and delivered, baby.
She wants me.
When's it happening?
Why don't men ever get the hint? She wants me. Like, what?
Yes. So I ended up breaking up with that guy just because it's to do with God. It was enough for me, you know. And I wrote Blake, and I just let him know, like, hey, I'm single, you know. Came over to his house, stayed up till 4 a.m. talking, and I let him know when he was ready to let me know when to go home, and he just never did. And I would ask him, like, do you want me to go home? And he's like, no, I'm good. And then I just started moving my things in. And then like a year and a half in, we got married.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
She's like, and then I never went home.
I never did. I never went back home. We went once, and he said no.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think he got the hint. I really do.
I need to be pursued in a little bit of a scary way. You know what I mean? Little, like, make me a little worried. No, I want to know what matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you really care. You really love me.
A subtle threat. Like, you're going to kill me, you know? But he really pursued me.
He really cared.
Wasn't upset about it.
He cared.
I knew what I wanted.
That's hilarious.
Okay,
Oh my
so
gosh.
you guys, so you move in, a year and a half later, you get married. You have 2 beautiful kids.
They're gorgeous.
Their names, I'll let you share. I know them, but I'll let you share.
Micah is 4, and Asher is 3.
Yeah, like just off the air, and you were just kind of showing us some pictures of her. Oh my gosh, she's so.
Thank you.
She's so
love her.
big.
I know. She's a little woman.
4's different.
Man. I don't know
It's
how
different.
that happened. So weird. Like,
Yeah.
Baby
overnight.
face is gone. I know. Oh.
Yeah. Putting it in my brain that is that same baby. That's
4 years
her.
ago.
It's
Yeah.
still taking me time. Like that I created life, you
I know.
know, and that it's able to breathe and create and like live life. Like
What?
how do you take that in?
I know.
How do you
I
truly
still
accept
trip
that
off
you
out
were
that,
capable
like,
of that?
Wow, you were literally in my tummy at one point.
goodness.
Yeah,
Such a
and,
blessing.
Like you have these kids who are beautiful and such a blessing, but we also know the other side of parenting where the kids just bring stress.
Yes.
You know, and not only is it their safety you're concerned about, but just the stress of not getting sleep and the talking back and the tantrums and the attitudes. And so that adds a created layer of, you know, just this mental shift from when you first were together where it's just you two.
Yeah.
Now you can stay up to 4 a.m. You don't have to worry about routines and schedules.
Yes.
But now,
That
and I
definitely
know you two do a phenomenal job of really helping your children stay on a schedule so they can like have some predictability and stability. But at the same time, I know it can be a strain because you have to work around them.
Totally.
So just kind of shifting into our conversation for today, just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey with mental health in marriage.
So we've when we got together in 2016, I hadn't been facing a lot of mental health issues. When I was growing up, around like 16 or so, I was on medication for quite a few years, seeing a therapist and stuff. And so it didn't really seem like much. We had so much going on. We were just living life, having fun. So we didn't think about it much. But when we got married in 2018, that's when our stepdad took his life. And that was 2 weeks after we got married. And then the same year in October, I lost my first baby. I had an ectopic pregnancy, which means the baby's stuck in your fallopian tube. And that year really hit me hard. And I got pregnant with Micah 3 months after I had lost my baby. And had my other son, they're 17 months apart, you know? And that's when the postpartum really, really hit. And that's when I started noticing things were going off, but it wasn't honestly till about 2 years ago that I was like, no, this is messing up us. Like, I could see it messing up me, but I didn't see how it was affecting us in the long term. And it took like those 4 years for all of that to accumulate into craziness, you know?
Yeah. Postpartum is a huge part of it. We were talking about that, and he was like, would you say that affects you mentally? And I'm like, yes, for sure. It's called like postpartum depression. And not only did you have one baby, you had 2 babies back to back.
Right.
And then like your body doesn't even fully recover until a year. You were pregnant again, you know? So I can't imagine all of that, and then giving your history too that you had. So when was it that I guess you brought that to your husband to say like, hey, I think that this is actually an issue, or I need help in this area?
After around like February of the year Asher was born, 2021, that's when I noticed like something's wrong, because I am irritable all the time. I'm mood swinging all the time. I'm just going off on him about the most random things, like why, you know, and I was dealing with a lot of family stuff at that time. So I kind of just put it off on like, maybe it's the family or whatever. But as I was figuring out, it was postpartum. It could be the depression coming back, and it could be bipolar coming back, all of these things, you know? And so I let him know, like, I'm going to go find a doctor and get on medication. And at that time, we were not on the same page about medication. He had grown up in ways, and I had too, where people had really done substance abuse to their prescriptions. And so letting him know, like, no, this isn't something that's going to like get me high or make me numb out and be a zombie. This is just going to level me out. And can I just show you what happens? You know, if it gets worse, you're here to tell me. But I think I'm pretty bad right now, that it could possibly get better, you know? So I got a doctor. I got a, what is it, baby? Psychiatrist. I got a psychiatrist.
I always mix
it up. And then I actually went back to the counselor that I had saw when I was like 16, 17, because that was something familiar for me. And I'm not even seeing the same counselor anymore, because through my healing, I realized like, oh, I don't need your ways anymore of what you think I need. I actually need something deeper than that. So I see a trauma specialist right now.
That's good that you were able to even realize and recognize that, like, that you needed a different, like, you were good in this season, but in this season of my life, you can't help me.
Well, I think it's important to realize with your therapist sometimes of like, are you really listening to me? And are you pointing me in the right direction when I leave here? Am I feeling better and encouraged to keep doing more? Or are you kind of like fanning the flame and making me feel like maybe I should be mad at my husband?
Oh, wow.
Because he is wrong. And maybe I should feel this, you know? And it's like, no, don't do that to someone with mental health issues. Because there's already crazy enough going on in there. Like, you need guidance. And that's where it was deeper trauma than what I thought was going on.
Yeah, and just thinking like you being aware of how receiving advice from a professional is negatively affecting your relationship. I think that's great self-awareness and great a great ability to kind of say like, hey, like, I don't know, like, I've been with you for so long, but it's not working.
Right.
And so to be able to pause and say like, you know what, I've outgrown this, and
That's
being
good.
able to label it as like I've outgrown it, I think that's huge. So as a husband, Blake, like, how did you like respond like in the thick of it? Because, you know, like sometimes we don't necessarily, sometimes we just see it as relational issues. Sometimes we just see it as like, you know, like my wife's just really getting on me for whatever reason. Like, I don't know how you would describe it, label it. Like, I don't know, she's being unfair, she's being extra, she's being crazy, you know, whatever it is. Like, how did you respond to that?
Well, I mean, for the most part, I was just really sad, and I was so confused. And as a man, you just don't want to be either one of those things. And so I would say when we moved back in 2019, because we were living in Paso Robles, we had Micah in San Luis Obispo, and then a couple months later, we bought our house in Tulare, and then, COVID hit.
Right.
So that was a factor with not only raising our first kid, now being back home, me just being back in real estate and entrepreneur, I feel the need to just provide.
Yeah.
Right.
I got to provide for my babies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time to be confused. I don't have time to be sad. I don't have time for any of that. So I just ran really, really hard. And what I'm recognizing in my healing journey is that I have an awesome personality, but I am extremely obsessive. And not just on my wife, with getting her to marry me, but
Right.
Yeah.
I've had work as a replacement for a lot of just feeling and presence and being. Like the art of those things I have avoided at all costs in the name of what I thought was righteousness and work. And it really took up until 2021 to see my wife like that and really look at myself and being like, you're doing all this to hold it together and just compensating, but I never felt like I was doing enough for her. So I was constantly operating from a point of lack in the sense that I wasn't doing enough to provide because there's stress in the house on me, which then is causing her to be like this. So as a man, I just take it's my fault.
Oh.
And I've created all of this and I'm so sorry. And learning how to carry that and then put a smile on and still be an entrepreneur and a businessman. And then my goals being the best dad and husband, but feeling like I am less than every single day. And how did I handle it? I cried out, God, I don't know what to do, but I know that that is my wife and that I love her and I'm not going anywhere. So I don't have to be understood in these seasons. I don't even have to understand myself. I just have to know my calling and my purpose here. And I have to reevaluate where my identity was lying. And so I went into a whole just mess of wow, my identity is not in my work. It is in how I love my wife. It is in how I love my kids. And so I could put out all this stuff for work all day long, but truth be told, it's in vain.
Yeah.
It was in vain if it wasn't coming from a foundation of loving my wife first, of loving my home, caring about it, being present in it. That's everything I wanted my whole life was a family with 2 kids, wife with 2 kids. And then I couldn't even enjoy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I just cried out to the Lord, Lord, help me. And I can't tell you exactly what happened, but one thing we did was we looked at each other in the eyes and we decided that we were both worth it. Individually
Yeah.
and collectively.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah, that is. I feel like so many men operate from that place of their whole identity is in what they do.
Totally.
And work and provide. So the fact that you came, I was there for a lot of that and
Yeah.
you would have no idea of what you were dealing with at home. You are the most energetic, happiest, positive person I've ever met. And so to think wow, that you were dealing with all that you were feeling or suppressing because you were just well, I'm good in this area. I'm just going to hit it full throttle and just work. You know what I mean? But biblically, there's an order and God operates in order.
He does.
And like you said, you were doing all of it in vain because you were out of order. Because it's God first, then it's your spouse, then it's your kids, and then work is down there.
Yeah.
So the fact that you understand that now and you guys are in a place to be thriving, it just makes me so emotional to just see my goodness.
I mean, I don't want to mess up the flow of it, but you guys were integral.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
we talked about that before we even came here today. So Mia, I'll let you talk about it a little bit because, I
called Lena and Jermaine all the time, because there was so many moments I just needed a man's perspective to see can you help me understand him? Because I'm not getting it. And I would call Lena as a woman, and both of them would ask me questions that challenged the way that I was thinking, because I would call people that would kind of support my cause, you know, and tell me that I'm in the right for being mad at my husband or whatever. And it would be like, well, yeah, just a different perspective, and asking me so many questions that sometimes I'd be like, do I want to call the maid?
I don't want,
Because he's going to break it down right now, you know? Like, do I really want help? Because I'm going to get help if I call. So, but you guys just kept leading me back to God over and over again, and to find a way to make amends with my marriage instead of ever fanning the flame. You guys always supported both of us, loved both of us. Like, you guys were a huge, huge reason why we were able to be where we are today.
I would know when she talked to you guys. I would.
Yeah.
I would, because the conversations would be different.
Yeah.
And I think back to the mental health thing, it wasn't her fault, and I knew that.
Yeah.
And I constantly had to remind myself, anytime I felt things rising, it's like, she don't want to feel like this.
Yeah.
And so constantly, I think we look at this sickness and we're like, man, get better, do better, be better. And it's like, dude, they do not want to feel like that.
Yeah.
They don't.
And he would tell me, because there's moments I would be crying and raging. Like, I was dealing with rage issues. It was anger issues that were just tormenting me. And I would take them out on him. And then I would cry a second later and be on the floor bawling. Like, I don't know why I keep doing this. I'm so sorry. And he would just hold me and be like, I know you don't. I know you love me.
Wow.
You know?
That's
How
powerful.
reassuring, though,
Yes.
in that moment when you feel like completely seen and completely loved. Like, even in what you would see as like your darkest or your lowest moment, but still you see me and you love me
Yeah.
through that. And that's what I'm learning and have learned, is like, sometimes it's just being there.
Yes.
You don't even have to have all the answers. Just be
100%.
present. Just hold me. Like, just let me know that I'm not actually crazy, that I am
Yes.
okay, and you're in it with me, you know, no matter what. And so I think that's so huge. Like, even something is like just holding me, you know, like, can make a world of difference.
I am a
can.
person who really loves to like have the right words. Like, I really want to know what to say. Once I know what to say, I know how to say it. But oftentimes when I'm with Lena and she's crying, like, I am speechless because I have no words. I don't know what
Amen.
to say. I don't know how to comfort. And oftentimes she would just kind of tell me, just me being there, and holding her probably was the greatest thing that
Amen.
I could have said.
Yes.
Because it didn't, like, I didn't have the words per se, but what it said was that you're here for me.
Yeah.
Amen.
And you're here with me.
Yeah.
And so my question for you is like what strategy, once you figured out, like, okay, this is like a major issue, because yeah, you are dealing with depression, you're dealing with these mood swings, but at the same time, like, you're going through a major shift career-wise. And so that's also another added layer, because it's not just you, like, you're affected, Blake, by Mia, but you're also bringing your own dynamic into it as well. That's affecting your mental health. So what strategies did you put in place to kind of walk through this in a way that you both were careful with each other and not like just attacking each other?
So I think we did, by the God's grace, we were able to find the commonalities. So I think a lot of time in argument where we start picking each other apart and finding the differences. And it's like, there's typically some threads that brought us together and will always bring us together. And like, for us, sometimes it was less words. It was looking at her and being like, I love you. Like, I actually love you.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's like, and then go about my day. Like, you have to reaffirm what you know to be true, even if they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I believed that she didn't believe me. She didn't believe it herself, so how could she believe me?
Yeah.
And knowing her past and knowing her history, coming from a man, how is she supposed to receive that? With all the hurts, with all of the traumas, with all of the stuff, how can she even trust that?
Yeah.
So, like, for one, the greatest mission and business and investment in my brain has always been Mia. It's always been my wife. Like, so strategy, anytime I started getting into weird places in my head, that's my wife and I love her. She is my greatest investment on this earth. If I lost everything in business, if I didn't do nothing, it was me and her in a shack praising the Lord, it would be more honorable to him.
Yes.
And when I actually believed that, actually, my life changed. And I think my whole spirit changed. I think who I am as a being was truly there for the first time. And I've been praising God in church since accepted the Lord in junior high. I don't have enough time for the testimony of what I've been through, but God's always been with me.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it's just remembering that. And so I use that strategy in our marriage. You remember.
Yeah.
I remember. We know this, honey.
Yeah.
We know. She's like, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So less is more sometimes. You do connect with your spouse on an energetic level, man.
Yes.
And I believe, Jermaine, when you were talking right now, that was the Holy Spirit, bro, that was keeping you quiet. Because a lot of times we think that the Holy Spirit is in charge for these massive words, but all of our words fall short.
Yep.
So the silence and the energy of love and presence truly is, I think, like the best medicine you could ever give to anybody ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the consistency in which you do that is just, you can never overdose
Nope. Never.
on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, we have something up here in our brain that kicks out chemicals that can get us right with the right amount of love.
Yes.
Every time.
Yep.
Every time.
You know, they say, I've heard it said that love heals, you know, and me being married to him, I'm like, it has healed certain areas in me that I didn't even know that I needed, because I know we have similar backgrounds in terms of like maybe dad not being as present or having that bond or relationship with dad. And so it has healed areas. Just being married to him, right? There's a layer, and then watching him as a father to our kids, it has healed another area. And so just what you're saying, like the presence, the energy that love brings alone, I feel has a healing component to it when you think of the love of Christ and the healing component. We have to live this life out because of him, but also in marriage. I feel like it mirrors you, right? Like you come face to face with who you are, but if you look at it correctly in that mirror, it gives you an opportunity to heal certain things, certain patterns. We were talking about this recently, generationally, things that's like, okay, let's address this that you have to come face to face with. You know what I mean? Like you said, you have had this history when it comes to mental health, but it wasn't until in your marriage that you're like, oh, this is affecting us. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is something that we have to deal with. And so I love that just having a supportive spouse, I feel like is a huge, major thing that maybe not a lot of people have. And at first you was like against the whole like medicine thing. So how did you kind of get on board with that? Like what happened after that?
So, I've had a struggle with it. Like, I am still like wrestling and figuring out like, honestly, what is the right way. But what I've found, and it was a really good reminder to me, but every year we have 12 months and everyone knows when the new month begins and all of that. But the Bible never talks about our life happening in months. It happens in seasons. And the weird thing about seasons is that no one waves a flag in front of you saying, hey, you just departed from this season. You just entered this one.
Yes.
And so a lot of times we end up wrestling the residue of something that is already done and you're in a new season.
Ooh, what are you preaching?
So like a lot of times, like sometimes now when we fight, it's like, we already won, right? Like it's all good. This is kind of like, we're already future tense. Like we made it through this. So are we good? Yeah. Let's rock. Like just a reminder, but I don't know, I probably went off on a little tangent there.
No,
you're good. You're good.
We're just talking.
Okay.
Because I think you just mentioned something that was like ideal that a lot of couples don't do is like you team up together. Like when you go through these conversations, when you go through these moments where you're at odds, you still remind each other that you're on the same team.
Yes.
And just think about it, like when you are depressed or when you're in a low mood, like it alters how you see your partner. Because I don't know if this has been the situation for you, but oftentimes when you're battling mental health, like and you circle around back to the same thing, like you're stuck, like you start to see your partner through that unresolved situation.
Yeah.
And now it's like you're judging your spouse based off of the moment.
Correct.
Rather than like, especially as Christians, who God has said your spouse to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you team up with one another, what you're saying is it's not you that's my enemy. Like we're on the same we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Not only are we on the same team as Christians, but we're on the same team as husband and wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now that we're on the same team, now the situation that has us stuck, or the reason we're stuck, or the problem that we're having is now the enemy.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it's not us. You're not my enemy.
Let's reassign this.
Yeah.
And it's almost like externalizing the problem, because it's not just us.
Correct.
Like, we got married because we love each other.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're beautiful. Like, I'm going to pop in this office as much as I can. Like, I'm going to show you that I see you and I know you see me, because you're going to send me a long email at some point.
He's like, this is going to pay off. I'm going to just stalk her a little bit.
Exactly. And so you got married off of that. But then when you go through these situations, like, you start to see your spouse through the 20%
Correct.
that we deem as like a problem.
Right.
But when you start to team up with one another, you start to say, like, okay, like, we're on the same team. We can manage these differences.
Yes.
We can find a way to mesh it and come to some type of agreement, even if we agree to disagree.
Yep.
You know, like, it was so beautiful what you said, as far as like, I have to remind myself, like, you're my wife.
Yeah.
Like, everything else comes second to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about, like, man, like, just the vision you have for your marriage, like, we're in this, like we're in this for the long haul. Divorce isn't on the table. Like,
Yes,
this is
not an option.
This is what we're committed to. Now you can strategize and, like, bring your differences, manage your differences according to the vision that you have for your marriage.
Correct.
And that's beautiful. But, like, I know there are people who are out there who's watching this and they're like, well, that's all good and dandy, but we're stuck right now. Mm-hmm. So I want you to speak to the couples who might feel like mental illness has impacted their intimacy and emotional connection. Okay. Like, what does that look like in that moment? And then what does it feel like and look like being able to work through that and get to where you are now?
We were dealing with a lot of intimacy issues because during my depression, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, eating, the bare minimum things weren't happening. And when I did finally have energy, it wasn't for him. And I didn't think that was a problem, to be honest with you, because I felt like I'm doing everything else, so isn't that enough? But I didn't think about how special that was, you know, because now I love our time together. Like, we are so blessed to have a spouse that we can worship with. I don't take it for granted.
We're all for worship.
But I mean, it took us having like a serious talk about it, because he had to be honest with me that it was even upsetting him, because during my bouts, I was dealing again with a lot of rage. He could not tell me anything that I did wrong because I refused to listen. I felt like, you know, I feel the way that I do. I messed up, you know, this is how it is. And I didn't know there was a way out. I didn't know that there was help for me out there, you know? And so I just put it to the side. But now it's a very important part of our just connecting back with each other. We connect in all these other ways, but that is such an important way too. And just letting him know that he's loved and he's cared about. And it's not all just about, is everything working for me?
Yeah.
You know, because I kept thinking, if I just get these things in order, I'm going to feel better. Mm-hmm. If I just get those in order, but then I forgot about him. You know, like I have my babies. Everything was solely on them. I just wanted them to be okay. But I just didn't, I didn't know the biblical way either, you know, like that your husband also goes over you. Like that was crazy to me. I'm still learning. Like I've become so much more feminine recently that he's just like, why are you not, you know? And I'm just like, because you do it. You're the authoritative, and I'm good with that. I can finally relax and just be a woman and be maternal.
Yeah, but I want to actually highlight this because you being okay with letting your husband take a certain position works for you. And because it works for you, you are okay with those roles in your relationship.
Yeah.
Because there are some people like, over me.
I know.
I'll be dang if he's over me. Like, we're equals.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, this works for your relational dynamic.
Yes. And why do you want that? Why do you want to be equal so bad? Do you want to be the provider for your family? You want to be the hunter and the gatherer? You want to be the daddy to your babies when you're set to be the mom? Is that how you want to live?
Uh-oh.
Like, I had to wake up.
Man.
I felt like you asked me.
Is that how you want to live?
I looked at myself dead in the mirror.
I'm like, I don't know.
I said, you want this?
I don't know if I want to be the dad in the mom. I don't know if I want to be the dad.
You better want to be the dad.
That's my question.
know.
That is my question for somebody who wants to give a hard time about that. Because let's be real with the responsibilities that it comes with. And I didn't realize how much weight I was putting on myself thinking that was my job.
That you didn't have to carry.
I didn't grow up with a man leading my family like that. So I thought I had a mom that was both my dad and my mom, you know? So seeing him try to step in and, you know, be authoritative with our kids and stuff like that, I just would, no, you know? And that's, how hard is that as a man that, you know, that's your job, you know, like he's coming from a loving place. He would never, you know, so why not let him? And then as I kept continuing to get my fingers off and to relax, I was like, oh, he's a great dad. Yeah, he's a great provider, and he does all the things he says he's going to do. He's not lying to me. You know, and if you can form trust, though, like we had to form trust with each other for me to believe that he would provide for us and that I could work on my healing and stuff. And like, I wasn't just going to be dropped, you know, because my trauma led me to think like marriage doesn't last. If I don't get it right, I'm just going to lose him because I thought it was that simple, you know, but I didn't know he loved me like that and that he'd keep pursuing me the way that he did, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Just that pursuit, that endless pursuit that we have. I wanted to ask, like, with the self-care, how do you guys both balance that with your mental health, right? Like that's a huge component of it. And you touched on this a little bit of like when you were in those states in your low moments of being depressed, it was like brushing my teeth, doing my hair, like all of that was too much. And I remember a conversation we had at that time and you were like, I have to just focus on one thing today. Like this is the one thing. So it truly was a lot for you understanding like where you were. I've seen someone, battle and struggle in that area and not come out of it the way that you have and seen how it's negatively affect their marriage. So to see like you guys and where you are, it's just all God, right?
No, amen.
And I think a huge part of that is the being equally yoked of having someone, but maybe that's not the case for most couples out there where they don't have that to lean on. Yeah. And maybe that's part of what leaves them like stuck for so long. You know what I mean? With going around the mountain again and again and again, because some of the revelation that I believe you guys got going through this was solely like divinely God speaking through people and placing people in your life to help you come out of that season, you know? Yeah. And so if you could encourage someone like who's dealing with that, what would you tell them? I mean, I can only know from our conversations, but you've been there and you can relate in a way that I can't to share like, okay, this is the way, take these steps or ask yourself these hard questions. Like you said, I looked myself in the mirror and was like, is this what you want? Like, you know, maybe that's what it takes. Or maybe it's, you know, focus on the one thing that you can get done today or seek help if you need it. Like at one point where you're like, okay, you were taking the medicine and it's like, okay, this isn't helping. Now I need like a therapist. Like I need someone to help me get to the root of this, you know? So if you could speak to that, I know I said a lot, but you know, to help people come out of it in a sense or walk out of it. Not that you're not okay. It's okay to not be okay where you
still
are.
Working on stuff.
Because sometimes people want to rush us. Like, come on, get up. Like, don't be depressed anymore. And
I don't think we'll make it until we get to heaven.
Right. Oh, yeah. 100%. We won't.
But the kingdom's here, so we can enjoy.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I would say, man, going through therapy and I had gone to a place called Balance Treatment Center, and it was for mental health, and it was a 6-week program. And when I was learning with all of that was self-care, because growing up in a family, I took care of the boys on one side of the family. And then on the other side, it just was fending for myself. I just was figuring it out,
Yeah.
And so I grew up in high school rolling out of bed. I didn't get up and get dressed and do all these things, But when I started to learn about how much I was disregarding everything by disregarding myself, if I get ready and I worship that day, I dance in the living room, I spend some time like working on something that I'm interested in, reading a book, whatever it may be. It brings me to a better space with my husband because I want to be involved in him, because I want to see, how's your day going? What are you up to? And I'm filled up with the Holy Spirit that helps me to love my kids even better, love others around me. Yeah. So I would say, like, in that time when I did talk to you, it was one thing at a time. And I think that that's okay too.
Yeah.
If you can just do one thing at a time. Can you get ready today?
Yeah.
And put that all into one thing. Let's brush your teeth. Let's take a shower and get fresh clothes on.
Yes.
Can we just do that first? All right, let's do that for a few days. Okay, how about we take a walk today?
Yeah.
Let's just go outside. Like just all of these small things. And in Blake's own way too, like he started to go outside more. He started to just find his own stuff that was good for him. So it was like, by me taking care of myself, he started to take care of himself in different ways he had never thought of either, because I started pursuing a really good counselor. When I had the one I had, we had discussed, and I just really wanted him to see a counselor too, Yeah. And so he ended up finding an even better counselor, and his counselor guided me to my counselor, So you just don't know by the steps you're taking. And I never thought he would like go to counseling and stuff. And he comes back just feeling like he has these great insights and stuff. And I'm so thankful, like, because this just isn't the story for everybody. I think people are scared of counseling. Like, that means there's something wrong. But what's wrong with having something wrong?
Right.
Amen.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do.
Let's just make that clear. Like, there's something about every one of us that isn't the standard.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, though. Like, from your perspective, let's just say there might be a husband listening or somebody who just does not get their spouse.
Okay.
Like, I don't understand her. Like, what do you mean just do one thing? Like, what can you share for the husband who is helping or might find it hard to help? Like, what advice can you give them to help their wife? Or maybe it might be a wife who has like a depressed husband. Like, what advice can you give the helping spouse to kind of like what to do in those moments of when they're like super low?
I would continue throughout the whole thing to just keep seeking God. If you want to find your spouse where they're at in their misery, seek God, because he'll guide you to where they're at and that you can meet them with grace.
Yeah.
You have to have grace for people with mental illness, because like Blake said, you don't want to feel like that, And so if you can keep that in mind, like you can remind each other that you're a team, pray together, give your spouse back to God a million times
all
over.
the time.
We've given, but when you put these prayers to God and you pray these things and you get to watch them come to life and the fruition of your prayers, because you decided that you actually can't fix your husband. You can't even fix yourself, but God can fix you. So you can invite him in over and over and over. And he's such a gentleman. He won't rush you on anything. And so we don't have to rush our spouses. We just meet them right where we're at. We're supposed to carry the load together. Like a two is a better company. If they fall in a pit, you can pick each other up.
Yes.
That's what we're supposed to do. Get in the pit together sometimes, like Blake's had to sit with me through some.
I try to avoid emotions in general, like in regards to that's just outside of joy, happiness, happy.
Yeah.
Like anything outside of that is like, stay away from me, because I have to stay in delusion land over here sometimes to just keep going.
Yeah.
And I just got off topic, but what was
We were talking about learning about emotions.
Of like, what would you tell that husband of how, or
Right,
that
right.
wife of how you could help them in that season? And she was saying like, sometimes it's just
Gotta
sitting
jump
in the pit. Yeah.
So nothing changed until I got in the pit. I think that was spot on. And it wasn't until I got into that place, not that I had to take it all on myself, because thankfully therapy reminded me, I put a lot of stuff on myself. It's like, I'm just going to get you through it. And it's like, I can't put my wife on my back and get her through this.
Yeah.
I've done that my whole life with everyone, everything, every business adventure. I'll put it on my back and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I realized that until I did understand her, we weren't going nowhere. Like, it don't matter how far away up here I get, like, we're together
Yeah.
on this.
And I would tell people too, your spouse is not your healer.
No.
They're not going to heal you. And you're not going to heal you either. You're not Jesus.
Yeah.
You're going to need God.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, that's what, because I expected Blake to kind of be my knight in shining armor to solve everything for me. And it put so much pressure on him, and it caused a lot of resentment in my relationship because I was like, why don't you care? And he's like, but I care so much. Like, I could not care more, you know? And, But it wasn't, like he said, it wasn't enough because God wasn't filling me in because I wasn't allowing him to. I just wanted something, a quick fix. I didn't want to do the work, but I have done the work,
Yes.
you know?
And I would just say I had to get vulnerable with that. Like, I think women sometimes can't get vulnerable because they do want their husbands actually to lead a little bit there. Because depending on their past or their history, they might not trust men or whatever. So their guards or their, you know, whatever is up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always say it, leaders go first.
Yeah.
And if you consider yourself a leader of your household, which all husbands should, that means we actually should be emotionally in tune.
Yes.
And actually, we're more powerful when we are. Like, you start stepping into your kingship when you start stepping into all parts of your humanity. And that's a weird thing. So I would say, and I said it in the beginning, call out. But call out means call out to God and then simultaneously say, hey, I'm calling out to God, honey, because I don't know what to do, but I know I love you.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going anywhere. And I know that we're going to get through this.
And he's had to tell me that a lot.
Over and over and over again, because like, that's how you break people free.
Yeah.
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 You break them free, man. Like,
And I'm thinking like going back to the grace that you talked about, like I know my wife had to be extremely gracious towards me, especially in these last 4 years with getting this degree, because
oh God, yeah.
Jesus.
like you mentioned like you used to roll out of bed and just get going, and now you have to like be intentional with doing those things once you get out of bed to be in the right mind space so you can show up for your husband, for your kids, for your family, for whoever else that you're going to interact with that day. And for me, there are a lot of nights where I got a little bit of sleep because our children are not resting, they're not getting good sleep, so having to get up, walk the kids back, whatever. And so like I'm going all day with, you know, hearing people's problems and talking, and then, you know, come home and my wife, she just wants to have a conversation with me. And she's sitting there and I'm like airheaded, like I'm so spaced out right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so she's been very gracious with me with allowing me the space to say, I am not here. I am emotionally drained. The emotions that you want right now, they're very few. And it's hard for me to show up for you in these moments. And when you think about it, like what wife wants to hear that she doesn't have her husband for the 2 or 3 hours that she gets with him before he goes to sleep and then goes back to work to put in X amount of hours. And so she's been very gracious in these last 4 years, and it has meant a lot because it showed me that she loved me in a way that went past how we interacted with each other.
Amen.
And so I hear you saying that. Like I hear you saying like, for the person who's helping, like, just be gracious because you don't understand what they're going through. Like you don't know what's going on in their mind. Like sometimes, like I was talking to one husband and he was saying like, I just don't get why, like all she has to do is just do this. Why can't she just do this? And grace puts you in a position, it gives you an attitude to say like, oh man, I really don't know.
That's right.
I really don't. But what do you need?
Yeah.
It's good.
Like how can I help you?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you mentioned like we're not going to be perfect until we get to heaven. But even when you think about like biblically, like the two shall become one flesh, that isn't just like, okay, we became one flesh and now we're done.
Yeah.
Right.
That process is also a lifelong process, because you two are two people who are constantly getting better, constantly growing, hopefully.
Yes.
You're
yes.
constantly changing one way or the other.
That's right.
And you're becoming someone else, you're becoming a new person, and now you have to learn your spouse again.
That's right.
You have to adapt to different changes. And now you're 20 years down the line and you're splitting because you didn't take the time to slow down to get to know your partner as you go.
We were literally
literally
just talking about that. Yes.
dude.
Yeah. 'Cause-
Like, and just how awesome it is that we are being intentional, because it is foreign to us, like, to be this intentional with each other. Like, it almost feels like you're doing something like odd, like you're weird, like kooky almost.
Yeah.
It does.
No,
Yeah.
I
Like-
will
It
say
does.
that, yeah, because
And it's weird. It shouldn't be like that. But the reality is, that's how we talk about marriage in America. It's so discounted,
Yeah.
watered down, like silly.
Yeah.
It's really silly
Yeah.
that it takes us even saying, hey, this is the normal.
Yes.
How we should be talking about what we're talking about is completely normal, to be this honest and transparent with your
Yes.
spouse.
Yep.
It should be this honest. Like,
Yeah.
so if you're hearing this and you're like, I want that to be me, because I can tell you a few years ago, this would have been me. Hearing this being like, oh, that's cool, but that ain't gonna happen. Real life application, nah, dude, that don't. But I'm telling you, if this is you, like, challenge it.
Yeah.
Straight up say, God, I know this life is more than this.
Yeah.
I know this marriage is more than this. And then you look at your spouse and you say the same thing.
Yes.
Because once again, it goes back to, we're going to do this thing together, this life. And I believe this life is better with us together than separate.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
Like, so.
yeah, it sounds kooky, because when you look at just America and the importance of consumerism in our
Right.
society, it's the best, it's the next, it's the newest, it's the most functional, it's the one that gives me less problems.
Yep.
And so there's such a ease and such a quickness to move towards, like, well, you're not making me happy, so let me find the thing that's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you think about what marriage should look like in our society, I think you touched on it best, which is have a plan and be intentional. Because it's like paddling upstream. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be so much work.
Yeah.
But if you have where you're trying to go and you have what you're trying to get to, when you run into times where you are depressed, or you are very low, or you're a husband, you don't know what to do because you and your spouse just can't see eye to eye, it's like, okay, like, we know where we're going.
That's right.
I don't know what that looks like and how to get there right now,
Right.
but I know that this is what we said we're going to do.
That's right.
And both of us are still on the same page. Both of us are still in agreement. Both of us are well aware that we have kids, but we still have a marriage that is before that. And because we want to prioritize that, we can prioritize our relationship to better our kids. Like, we know that this is the foundation for a lot of things that's going to happen.
Correct.
And just sidebar, me and my wife were talking today, and we were just saying how we were just so grateful for one of our grandmas that kind of just is here and they're present, because historically, like, I don't have a relationship, and I didn't have a relationship with any of my grandparents. Like, I had a grandma I would go and visit for the summers or whatever, but that's been our testimony, and that's been something that's generational. And so even with her showing up, that's something that's shifting the generational culture of our family.
So
So by having a plan and having just like this mindset of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like, I know you're not feeling well, and I know you're off, and I know you have rage right now, and right after that is followed by tears because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you grace right now, because this is what Christ would do.
Yeah.
Christ understands that we're human. Christ understands that we're flawed. And Christ still went on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
And with that heart and attitude is grace and humility. And you're able to work through some of those difficult conversations
Yeah.
to
Amen.
get to where you are now.
Amen. And just, men, just be like, hey, honey, this is really awkward and embarrassing. I don't even know where to start, but like, start like that.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Take the edge off of yourself.
Yeah.
Stop trying to come up with a perfect
Right words.
word.
And just be
soup.
authentic. Yeah.
Just be real. Like, I'm feeling weird and I think we're worth it. And so you're going to be like, what were you talking about? But just that right there.
Yeah.
If you can utter it,
Yeah.
trust, man.
Yeah.
It's
Just
so
to get the
good.
conversation going.
Like, just one of us always had to be that one
Yeah.
to just be like, hey, that was silly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we talk? And it's like, okay. Like, and you know, then it starts though. It
Yeah.
starts something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, trusting the Lord on that too. Like, man, Lord, help me.
And getting in a place that you do get so vulnerable and you have so many open up conversations. Like Blake was going on a trip recently and I was feeling really insecure about it. And instead of getting mad and huffing and puffing and waiting till he gets back and or wait till he leaves and be like, I just let him know, like, I'm feeling really insecure. And I told him the craziest story I made up in my mind.
Yes.
He didn't sit there and tell me like, that's ridiculous. How many times do I have to tell you? Like, he was just like, oh man, that's a lot. I would never do that. And I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
And I won't do anything to mess. I just needed some reassurance,
And
you
that's
know?
what I was gonna
and sometimes
say.
that's hard for men to do. They feel like,
Yes.
well, I wouldn't be with her if I didn't want to be with her. Like, okay, but if you don't reassure her, then how is she supposed to know? Like, even if she has these crazy thoughts, love her so much that you'll listen to them.
Hey, and men, we need it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where I'm insecure sometimes, and because she was able to tell me that, I was able to tell her some stuff. They're like, hey, I myself am really frustrated that I'm feeling like this, but nonetheless, I'm feeling insecure and I'm having thoughts that I need to talk to you about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is well, for one, my husband says this: vulnerability begets vulnerability, right?
Amen.
So when
That's
you're
good.
being vulnerable,
Yep.
then
Yes.
you're gonna be like, okay, well, I can be vulnerable and share some. Let me show you my crazy thoughts that I had too. You know what I mean? But also, what you're doing is exposing the enemy, right? Because we know that there's a spiritual realm.
Yes.
We have an adversary that's very real, and so those are little lies that he's throwing in your ears or whatever it is. And instead of harboring that, because that could have led to a rage or a depression, and that thought alone, imagine if you wouldn't have spoke
Yes.
up. He's gone on this trip and then all those thoughts, you're on your own island with these thoughts, and it
Yes.
creates a reality that's not even real.
Amen. That's
But
so
in
good.
exposing the enemy, you say, look, let me tell you this. I just had this crazy thought,
Yes.
but I just had this, and I've had to do it. I'm like, I just had this weird dream and I was
Yeah.
about to fight.
Yeah. It's always
You know
dreams.
me?
It's always dreams. Always
It's
dreams.
always dreams.
Okay,
Go ahead.
hop on this with the dreams.
Oh my goodness.
I would,
My pregnancy dreams were the worst. I would just wake up just like,
she would be.
and he's like, what did I do this?
I'm like, what did I do?
Time.
And I was like, you did it again. Just, but it happened all the time. And I would wake up like it was real. And I would just look at
And
him
it
like,
was
I can't
real
believe
for
Dreams
like
do feel real though.
a while.
Bruh, they do. And she's had dreams where she woke up and you know how like you have a dream and it's like, boy, this felt, I don't know, this was real.
Yeah.
Like she's woke up and like told me like dreams and it sounded like it actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Bruh, I was next to you. I didn't go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And like,
It's true. It's true. But in exposing the
Yeah,
enemy,
expose them,
it's not
man.
a lie that you take in as truth and you allow
Right.
to harbor that,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of times we just have to do that. Be willing to, I mean, you have forever.
Yes.
This is all I got. We doing this one time. I have forever. And I
Yeah.
heard someone say, like, when you give your all and you love someone right, you don't want to do it again, right?
No.
So, like, you give everything you have to this relationship. And so I'm going to let you know my good, bad, ugly, crazy, and everything else, because we're going to walk through it together, you
That's
know?
right.
And so I love that you were like, let me just tell you this thought that I'm having, you know?
like it's a scary place to be in a relationship where you can't share those dark secrets. Now we know, at least me and Lena, like you have to be very mature in your relationship, and I think you should be very mature before you share something as vulnerable as like, honey, I seen that booty in the aisle and I was lusting. I was tempted.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have to be very mature in your relationship
Yeah.
because it can be triggering. It can make you feel insecure. But being able to share that as you mentioned earlier, like it does like beget a level of trust to now where you can actually be vulnerable, just as vulnerable as your spouse was with you. And now you two feel more secure because the very thing that you were insecure about, your spouse has shared something that caused stability for you because they not only reassured you, but you were able to share it and it landed in a place to where it was caught and cared for.
Yes.
Oftentimes, like men, we do a terrible job at being vulnerable in our relationships. And because we do a terrible job of being vulnerable, that that like hard-heartedness actually like repels the love of our spouses because there's things they want to share, there's things that they want to open their hearts up with that they aren't able to because we don't invite it as leaders.
Right.
And man, like we can keep going all
I know.
night.
This
Like
has been good.
I personally love talking to both of you.
I love talking.
Not only
Love
do
you
I
guys.
get to talk to both of you like this sometimes, but also get to talk to you one-on-one.
Yep.
And I guess just as closing, and I don't know if you want to look at the camera when you say this, but what's one thing that you would share with a couple who is going through depression or any form of mental illness? Like what piece of advice would you give them as encouragement as they're walking through this right now?
I would say look each other in the eyes and just say, I don't feel right and I think something's wrong. And like it should trigger every bit of everything you have. Like, and I don't, maybe that's a scary thing to do, but at some point you have to get sick of feeling the way that you feel. And you need to share that with the person that you chose to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to look at it like, this is the reality. This is my wife. I spend majority of my time with her outside of work. Do I really care about getting to know her and be with her?
Yeah.
And like sometimes as a man, that's the first step.
Yeah.
Because if the answer's not yes right there, how do you expect yourself to be anything other than what you are?
Oh.
Like you're building something on it's vain. Like it's all in vain at that point. So get real, men, with yourself, and then look at your spouse in the eyes truly and ask the Lord, let me see her the way that you do. Lord, help me.
That's good.
Give me eyes to see and ears to hear everything you want out of this marriage. Because Lord, you brought me here. You're going to get me through this. And this whole thing's going to be a testimony of your goodness and grace. So help me be that.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Mia, what will be one thing you share?
I just want people to know that if we can get here, you can get here. Because I know that we've shared an inkling of our story.
Yes.
There's so much more to it. There are so many more downs.
Oh,
There's
yes.
tons of ups now. But the calls I had to them throughout these years seemed like this was not going to happen.
Amen.
And it was counting on God over and over and over again and allowing him to go through my trauma, do the work, go into the dirty parts, allow him back in to all those places you fixed yourself and that you bandaged up yourself. Let him pull you back like an onion and put the anointing oil on all of those wounds, help him be able to heal. It's possible.
It is.
We still have work to do, but if anyone told me we'd be here today, I would be like, I don't know how that would ever happen, but it's possible.
Yeah. And you're worth it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We're freaking worth
Oh,
it.
yes, you are.
Yeah.
You guys shared so much good things. A few things that I think is worth like highlighting is just the vulnerability, having the hard conversations,
Yes.
even when it comes to yourself, getting help. It's okay to not be okay. Get help if you need it.
Yes.
Grace, give each other grace, especially your spouse, if you're the spouse that's dealing with it and in the thick of it. But don't be afraid to put in the work. That's in your marriage and that's in your own mental health journey because one thing I can say that I have always like, I'm so proud of you. You have done the work.
Yeah.
You didn't just say like, okay,
that.
I'm going to stay here. Like God walked with you through
Amen.
it, but you
Yes.
gave him something to work with and you
Yeah.
took the
Yeah.
action steps and you worked on yourself.
You
and I'm
were
so proud of you.
willing. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
willing.
A huge,
Yes.
huge part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. We were willing to take wisdom as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a man and woman and as a married couple, like you need wisdom from an
Yes.
outside source.
Yeah.
You guys were huge
Yeah.
Oh,
in
thank
that. And
Yes.
because, I mean, we live in Tulare, we can be straight up here, you know,
Yes.
on What the Biz 559.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
you. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yes. Freaking full circle for us even being here, dude. God's good, man. Seriously. What was I talking about?
You can be real. We're in Tulare.
Yeah, we can be
yes.
real. We're in Tulare. Like, y'all ain't from here.
No.
If seriously, and I say this seriously because I've seen some of you guys out and even following these peeps, like, if you want a third party that you can literally be real with instead of all of those friends that you call friends that you know you can't be open with, like, get a hold of them.
Yes.
For real. Things do get better. There are people that care. Like, you are seen, you are heard, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And you got, I mean, gosh, like, that's just so valuable in and of itself in a small town like this. So I had to bring that up, and I just realized that there's people that are watching this that, yeah, like, hit them up. They're not tied to all the crap that goes on in this place. Like, don't trip on that. So
Yeah. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again, man, thank you too
Thank
for
you.
Thank you guys. This
just
was
joining
fun.
us. You know.
We'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2.
Yeah, we should. But yeah, you want to close us out?
Yes. Thank you. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. We just appreciate you being here. We are bringing awareness to mental health and marriage, and it's been a great conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And please share this with someone that you know could use it, because we want to see marriages thrive. That's what we're here for. So thank you. Peace.